We're going to be looking at Jane Eyre in this set of videos. In this video, we're going to be looking at the characters in Jane Eyre. Obviously, Jane Eyre herself, the protagonist and the narrator of this novel. She's orphaned very young, and she overcomes various challenges and adversities to become a strong, independent woman. She's intelligent, passionate, and morally quite put together, morally upright. This quote's really useful, and I use it for a lot of things. It's worth learning because this quote can be used to make a lot of points or to illustrate a lot of different ideas. And she says, "I am no bird and no net ensnares me. I am a free human being with an independent will." Edward Rochester, who I do not like, he's the brooding and complex master of Thornfield Hall, where Jane becomes a governess. He's initially mysterious and distant, but later develops a deep emotional connection with Jane. He's a key romantic interest in the story. This quote's really long, so I've condensed it a bit. Those square brackets with the dots in, that's what they are. I sometimes have a queer feeling with regard to you. It is as if I had a string somewhere under my left ribs, and if that boisterous channel and 200 miles of land some broad between us, I've a nervous notion I should take to bleeding inwardly. Which is very romantic, but is irresponsible. So Bertha Mason is Rochester's first wife, or his wife, almost all the way through the book. And she is kept hidden in Thornfield Hall due to her mental illness. This is representative of the treatment of mentally ill people at the time of the book. Her presence and marriage to Rochester form a significant plot twist. Plot twist, he's married and his wife's in the attic. A significant plot twist in the novel. And this description of Bertha Mason is really, it's really horrible. And the book says, "The clothed hyena rose up and stood tall on its hind feet." So it dehumanises this woman right from our first meeting of her, and sort of makes her this animalistic figure. And it's really, really unpleasant, uncomfortable reading this part of the book. And then we have the awful Mrs. Reed, so Jane's cruel aunt, who raises her after her parents' death. Mrs. Reed mistreats Jane and then sends her away to Lowood School. And she sends her away. She doesn't want anything to do with her. And Mrs. Reed says, "Be seated somewhere, and until you can speak pleasantly, remain silent." And I think that's really indicative of the kind of person that she is. Helen Burns is a close friend of Jane's at Lowood School. She's a symbol of that sort of stoic Christian virtue. She puts up with stuff and she's sort of stoic and Christian about it, and has a profound influence on Jane's moral development. So she's a really important character, even though she's not in it for very long. And even as Helen's dying, she wants to comfort her friend. So she says, "I'm very happy, Jane. And when you hear that I am dead, you must be sure and not grieve. I believe, I have faith, I'm going to God." So she represents the sort of religious nature of a lot of this story, but she's very thoughtful. She cares about Jane. She doesn't want Jane to be too sad after she's died. On the other side of that sort of religious representation, we have St John Rivers, who's a clergyman who helps Jane when she's in need. He is Jane's cousin and offers her a chance for a new life abroad. He wants to marry, which is weird. And his motivations are not entirely selfless. There are a lot of sort of cousin-y clergymen in a lot of these sort of stories who are just hanging around the edge trying to marry people. And it's interesting. And he says this horrible thing to her. He says, "God and nature intended you for a missionary's wife. It is not personal, but mental endowments they have given you. You are formed for labour, not for love." So you're clever. You're not the sort of person that people go around falling in love with. So come and be clever with me. It's just awful, the idea that if you're clever, you're not meant for love. Yeah, so I'm not a massive fan of St John. And then we have his sisters, Diana and Mary. They assist Jane as well, and they're kind, and they become important figures in Jane's life. The quote that I've chosen for Diana is, "It is in vain to say human beings ought to be satisfied with tranquillity. They must have action, and they will make it if they cannot find it." So she understands that a lot of people don't just want to sit around being being tranquil, and if they get bored, they will make drama. And we all know people who will make drama. And then Mary, the quote that I've chosen for Mary is, "If all the world hated you and believed you wicked, while your own conscience approved you and absolved you from guilt, you would not be without friends." So she talks about being a bit more self-sufficient. So even if everyone hates you, if you know you've done the right thing, you'll be okay. And then we have the awful Mr. Brocklehurst. So Mr. Brocklehurst is this harsh, hypocritical headmaster of Lowood School, where Jane is sent after her aunt sends her away. And he's another awful, awful person. And the quote that I've chosen for him is, "All liars will have their portion in the lake with burning fire and brimstone." So he's saying, you'll go to hell if you lie, but he doesn't believe that. He's not. He makes himself out to be this very proper religious person, and he's not. So that's his hypocrisy there. I can't think of the word for hypocriticism. Hypocrisy. Now, Bessie Lee is the maid at Gateshead Hall, where Jane lives when she's younger. And Bessie is one of the few people who's kind to Jane in her childhood. She people at Gateshead who looks out for Jane and cares about her. And the quote that I've chosen for Bessie Lee is quite a long one, but because it includes some context as well from the book. But I think it's important. And she says, "Come, Miss Jane, don't cry," said Bessie as she finished. She might as well have said to the fire, "Don't burn." But how could she divine the morbid suffering to which I was prey? So Bessie doesn't understand Jane, but she cares for her. And that's what this quote really, really sums up very well. There'll be more Jane Eyre revision coming soon. I think there's another video out next Friday. Subscribe for new English revision videos every week, and I shall see you next time.